Bowers Wilkins is one of the most iconic loudspeaker brands in our industry. And today we're going to focus on this specific model. And first, we're going to say hi, Pete Medueno. How are you doing?
Doing excellent. How are you?
Good. Well, the 802 D4 is a product that I think maybe is overlooked by some folks who are looking at the 800 series, but it has a tremendous amount of benefits. And I think if we can focus on this one a little bit today, that might be helpful for our Gramophone viewers. So,
yeah, absolutely. A lot of people are very familiar with the 801. It's in Abbey Road Studios. And this is, sometimes looked at as the little brother, right? It's the middle child. Because we have the 801, we have the 802, we have the 803, all with the turbine head and the elongated tweeter. And so this is the middle child, and much like in family, it tends to be overlooked or forgotten about. But it is an absolutely fantastic speaker on what you're able to do with it.
It's an amazing speaker. And yeah, if we can just kind of start digging into it a little bit, but probably first, just for our viewers who might not be so familiar with who Bowers and Wilkins really is and why they're so iconic in our industry, maybe we can go back and just talk more generally about Bowers and Wilkins as our starting point. And then
absolutely. So Bowers and Wilkins, they've been a company since the mid 1960s. They're based in the UK. They're still built out in the UK as well. And they've had some iconic pieces that really have stand the test of time. I mentioned Abbey Road Studios before. The Bowers and Wilkins 801 is actually a speaker that is used in their main studio. It is used in studios all over the world, including Abbey Road Studios. It's also in Skywalker Sound. So a lot of your most iconic music and movies are being mastered or produced on Bowers and Wilkins speakers. And so many times, we reference Bowers and Wilkins of hear it the way the artist originally intended, or true audio and true sound. And that's something that, Bowers and Wilkins really hold near and dear to their heart, is achieving that the truest sound to what the original recording is meant to be.
Right. And I think all the legacy with the recording studios, like you say, all over the world, and including with some of the film soundtracks, those people really can, in a sense, have almost any speaker they want, but they want a speaker that really gives you exactly what's going on with that recording. And, it's a real tribute to the Bowers and Wilkins company and to their story that so many well-known studios do use them. So maybe now specifically, if we can start talking a little bit about some of the technologies here, because the previous D3 series had a lot of benefits to it, but there are some real upgrades that are going on in this speaker. Maybe we can start introducing some of those.
Absolutely. So, I'll reference some things that are new and some things that are, make it still iconic. So this is called the Diamond Series. And the reason that it's called the Diamond Series is because this tweeter right here, this is a 1-inch diamond dome tweeter. And so this is a very unique piece. Bowers and Wilkins has found that the diamond tweeter, though it is expensive to produce and difficult to produce, it is one of the most accurate tweeters, and it can really withstand the high frequencies that it needs to achieve. But what has changed with the diamond tweeter is its actual housing. So they've actually elongated the tweeter housing. It is a solid bullet piece of aluminum, so that it has no resonance. And so you can kind of take that. If you think of a tuning fork, when you hit a tuning fork, it's going to sing the resonance, and metal wants to sing with their frequency. So if you were to have a tuning fork and didn't hit anything, but produced the same frequency that the tuning fork can produce, the tuning fork will start to vibrate and will start to make a noise because it wants to sing along. But the whole goal with Bowers and Wilkins is that true sound is to remove the cabinet from the equation so that you just hear the true audio.
One of the things that's really impressed me is how well they've done, what a great job they've done with these grills. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things is the tweeter itself, as well as all these, have a unique pattern into them.
Yeah.
And the reason being is that anytime you put something in front of a driver, it's going to block some of the sound, right? And so the whole goal is to not block any of the sound, but still protect the speaker, or still protect the driver specifically. And so, this they've done a lot of different tests that, it's not an afterthought. This was actually thought of the pattern of how it was going to be produced. Same thing goes with the actual grills here. And compared to the D3 model to the D2, they've actually made each grill individually. So they can easily just magnetically stick right to the speaker. And I think it looks absolutely fantastic with or without the grills on them. But again, you don't have to worry about putting the grill on and having it block any of the audio, because they put a lot of emphasis, they did a lot of testing, and they did a lot of measurements to make sure that as little as possible was being blocked by the actual grill. and they look absolutely fantastic. I really like the new look of them, not of them having each their own individual cover as opposed to just one big grill.
Right, and you can tell it's really an engineered solution because there isn't a whole lot of difference between how it sounds with the grill on and with the grill off.
Yeah, I would. You got to come on down and test it out, but I doubt you're going to hear much of a difference. As we step down, we are using Continuum. Continuum is, a product that Bowers Wilkins worked tirelessly over for multiple years to produce, and so this is a aramid fiber that is owned and only on Bowers Wilkins speakers. No other company in the world uses this same type of fiber. But what's really interesting about this is what they did behind it. So we're using a BMS system. It's a biomimetic suspension system or biomimetic suspension spider as opposed to a cloth spider. So what we found was that typical cloth spiders create a lot of noise. And so when what they've done is they spent multiple years in producing this little piece of, I don't want to say plastic, but it's a little material that has a lot less material in it. So it's a lot quieter. It actually is 80 dB lower in cabinet noise.
Wow.
And so again, it's another part of that, tirelessly Bowers Wilkins product that wants to eliminate the cabinet from the equation. And then as you step down even further, we get into our airfoil bass drivers. This is a carbon fiber airfoil bass driver. And the reason they call it airfoil is because there's a variance of thickness inside of it. So what Bowers Wilkins does is they really reinvest in measurement tools to find where weak points are or where things are that they can improve in the speaker. And what they have found is that a bass driver needs to move, right? It needs to move a lot of air. And so they found that there's actually a weak point that can create almost a wobble. And so that weak point is right here in the center of the cone. And so what they've done is they put kind of a variance. So if we were to cut this in half and look at it, there's a thickness difference. So it's actually thicker in the inside and kind of tears out like an airplane wing, right? And so that's why they call it airfoil technology. And so it's a really, really fascinating piece that they've done with this. All this is tied into the cabinet itself, which is a matrix bracing, which holds all the drivers. It's aluminum faceplate, so they're not actually attached to the cabinet in any way but internally. And so that's really important with how the drivers sit with the speaker. Now, as far as the cabinet, we've talked a lot about the top mount, the tweeter and the mid-range and their technologies, but what's really important is the actual bass driver cabinet is what's going on here. So the first thing is, this is beechwood. And so it's multiple layers of beechwood that are pressed in a machine with high heat and a variance of pressure that will actually bend the wood. And there's different ways of doing this. This is what we found to be the most structurally in town to keep it, structure intact and not weaken any point. And so, as you see in the factory, you have those multiple layers. And so they actually will change the way the wood grain goes so that when they bend it, it's as strong as possible. Mm-hmm. Then with the new D4 model, they've put a top plate of aluminum. They put aluminum top plate and aluminum bottom plate so that it helps with the structural integrity of the cabinet so that it holds its shape. We're not going to see the cabinet flexing out, but machines can. Little measurement tools, again, part of what Bowers Wilkins does is reinvest in the measurements. And that's something that they've done. And so they've put an aluminum top plate on it, which helps reinforce the structure of the cabinet. Then they wrapped it in this beautiful leather up here. This is a company called Leather by Connolly. And so many people are familiar with that company because they're the same leather company that's in Rolls-Royce cars and things like that. And so it's a really, really nice, very, very high quality leather based in the UK as well. They've also changed the Flowport that's actually underneath in between the plinth and the base of the driver. Yep. And so the Flowport will actually create less cabinet noise as well. The whole goal is to eliminate as much unwanted noise from the speaker to give you that true sound, to give you what the artist originally intended within the speaker. And so Bowers and Wilkins does an incredible job. And I think the 802 is the middle child of it, but it still is as very talented as its older brother and its younger brother.
At Gramophone, we really appreciate your support. If you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe. That helps us out a lot. And click that little bell icon so that you'll always be notified of our upcoming content. So Pete, the unsung hero, if you will, of any loudspeaker, the part that nobody really sees and so they kind of tend not to ask about it, is the crossover network. Can you tell us just a little bit about what you've done there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing, if you come on down to Columbia, you can take a look at the speakers. you'll see the aluminum backplate. That is a solid piece of aluminum that the crossovers are actually attached to. And it acts as two things. One, structural integrity of the cabinet, but also as the heat sink for the crossover. Now, luckily with Bowers Wilkins, they do a lot of emphasis on the actual speakers that the crossover doesn't necessarily have to be over-invested in. You know, they've added some capacitors to the D4 series as opposed to D3, which helps eliminate some of the frequency, some of the noise that can enter into the speaker from whether it be the wiring, whether it be networking all over. You know, noise can enter the speaker from outside sources.
Right.
And so, you know, having those capacitors is helping protect the speaker, but also helps eliminate a lot of that noise that generates inside of it. And so little things like that, you know, it's all about getting the right pieces for the speaker. And they do a really good job of you know, the crossover, but because they built the speaker so well with the drivers and the cabinets and everything like that, the crossover doesn't have to be worked on for decades or years. Even though they do care a lot about the crossover, it is not the centerpiece of the speaker. It does an incredible job of what it's supposed to do. And again, I keep on saying it, producing that true sound.
So Pete, it's been a pleasure talking to you today about Bowers & Wilkins 802 D4. And we would love to play this speaker for you. Today we're here in our Columbia, Maryland location. And obviously we have them on display here. They sound incredible, and we're convinced that this is the right speaker for a lot of customers. So please, if you can, stop by and visit us. Bring some of your favorite music with you. We'd love to play it. You can find out more about Bowers & Wilkins and about all of our great brands at gramophone.com. And check out Sky by Gramophone, where you'll always get a secure checkout with fast and free shipping straight to your door. We have stores in Gaithersburg and Timonium, Maryland, as well as Columbia. If you do visit the Timonium store, make sure you check out the Experience Center directly across the parking lot, where you will see amazing products displayed in an amazing setting. And check out our Kitchen Design Center as well up in Hunt Valley. Thank you so much for watching this video. We look forward to seeing you soon.